Members, if you would please take your seat and make sure you're signed in. Members, please make sure you're signed in. What is day, the 10th? Yes, sir. Good morning. I apologize for running a little bit late. I had some constituents from my district that I had to greet, but it's good to have you with us today. And we will call the House Transportation Committee for February 10th, 2026 into session. Would the clerk please open the board? Members, if you would sign in. I believe we have a quorum. Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Mr. Chairman, you have 17 members present. You have a quorum.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Any questions or any comments or personal orders from committee? Seeing none, we will get right to our calendar. First of all, I want to Speaker Marsh, I'm so sorry I didn't see your hand.
Well, I was a little late. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've got some Motlow State Community College folks with us today. Welcome, Motlow, down in Lynchburg and in Smyrna and all over the middle part of the state. So welcome.
Welcome. I believe we also have a special guest in the audience. I'd like to welcome Mr. Rick Boyd. Rick Boyd, are you? There he is. At the 12 o'clock. Okay, well, welcome there. We'll give that to Chairman Hawk. You can welcome Mr. Boyd when he comes. We're going to get right to our calendar because we have a presentation from the Tennessee Chamber of Commerce, which should be very interesting to us. So we're going to take item number 1 on the calendar by Representative Eldridge. Have a motion. I have a second. Representative Eldridge, you're recognized. Please explain the bill.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, committee. Currently, the Northeast Tennessee Railroad Authority includes Campbell, Anderson, and Scott counties. This proposal is to add Claiborne, Union, and Granger counties. Currently, the R.J. Corman, Knoxville, and Cumberland Gap rail line serves all 6 of these counties. And so this consolidation will give Claiborne and Granger a seat at the table in the authority and help with funding and being more competitive up in that area. So that's what this bill is proposing.
Members, you've heard the explanation. Any questions for the sponsor? Mr. Representative McAlvin, you're recognized.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, move previous question.
I have a question. I have a second. Without objection, we are voting on the bill. Please open the voting board, Ms. Clerk. Please take the vote, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Chairman, you have 19 ayes and 0 noes.
Bill passes. Your bill goes to Finance.
Thank you, Chairman and committee.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 2 on the calendar by Chairman Hawk. We have a motion and a second. Chairman Hawk, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. House Bill 1683 is a funding bill for transportation. Through our meetings in this committee, as we heard a budget presentation from Department of Transportation, as well as yesterday in Finance Committee, we heard a presentation by the Department of Transportation. The monies we've been able to receive from the Modernization Act, $3 billion in the 24-year budget has been so instrumental in helping us in so many ways with transportation needs. Additionally, the current budget that we're in right now, we've placed an additional $1 billion in this budget. So $4 billion over 3 budget cycles have been included from the budget document. The only concern that I have is that these dollars are non-recurring. And although we've been good stewards with these dollars and we continue to make great strides, and Department of Transportation is doing incredible work funding our projects, I would like to see that become recurring. So what this piece of legislation does His takes a user fee from the sale of vehicles and tires. We had already instituted the tire sales taxes to go toward the transportation fund, but this reintroduces and includes the sales on motor vehicles to also go to transportation needs. A portion of first year is roughly $800 million that will go toward the transportation fund. In the first full year of implementation, it's over $1 billion to go toward our transportation fund. Again, to reiterate, we've been doing this already at a larger degree, non-recurring in our last 3 budget cycles. This is just going to help us make it recurring and help fund our roads and bridges. With that explanation, Chairman and members, I certainly ask for approval of this bill.
Thank you, Chairman. We have some questions for the sponsor. Chairman Rudd, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to congratulate Chairman Hawk. For those who weren't here back in 2017, he had proposed this. If the legislature had listened to you back then, TDOT would be a lot further ahead in its money and projects. So thank you for bringing this back up. It deserves to be put right.
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman Russell, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to clarify, is this new money or is this existing money just redirected it?
You're recognized, Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Chairman Russell, for the question. No new dollars, no new taxes, no new dollars. These are existing funds that have typically been going toward the general fund, which we had designated toward transportation the last 3+ budget years to start with. So no new taxes, just a transfer of funds from the general fund to the transportation fund.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Thank you.
And Representative Towns.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Representative, good bill. Want to sign on to the bill. $1 billion. I mean, it's more than what we had, but still with transportation, it's not a lot of money. With the needs that we have. And I wish there was some way we could figure out how to generate more revenue for our infrastructure, our stuff across the state. But certainly this is a good attempt at trying to, call in a few more dollars to try to address our causes now, because as we go into the future, everything's going to cost more and more and more and more. But like I said, good bill, and want to add my John Hancock. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative McCalman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Move previous question.
Previous question has been called. Without objection, we are voting on House Bill 1683. Please open the voting board. Mr. Clerk, please cast your vote. Madam Clerk, please take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 20 ayes and 0 noes.
Thank you very much. The bill passes and goes to finance. Thank you very much, and congratulations, Chairman Hawk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Moving to our last item on the agenda, that also is from Chairman Hawk, item number 3, 1684. I have a motion and a second. Chairman Hawk, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. House Bill 1684 is the bill that will modernize Tennessee's personal delivery device laws to reflect advancements in delivery technology since the statute was first enacted in 2020. The bill will provide clear statewide rules for low-speed autonomous delivery devices while maintaining strong public safety guardrails and permit local regulation within the established networks in our local governments. By leveraging autonomous technology for short-distance deliveries, we can help merchants meet rising demand while serving consumers better and creating new opportunities for everyone. There is an amendment, Chairman, and I'll explain it just a little bit here. Expands the type of areas in which a personal delivery device can be lawfully operated, authorizes a device to travel up to 20 miles per hour when operated outside of pedestrian areas, allows the regulation of devices by local resolutions or ordinances within certain regulatory restrictions. Again, I do have an amendment. It's drafting code 012690.
That's what I have. We have a motion and a second on the amendment. Without objection, all in favor of the amendment, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. And that is on the bill. Do you have further explanation, Chairman?
Stand ready to answer any questions or talk to any concerns that members may have.
Representative Towns.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Chairman, the distance that at 20 miles an hour, how far will these vehicles be allowed to travel?
You're recognized.
Don't know if there's an exact distance in there. I'll reiterate, short distances. This is not, they're not going to, I'm not going to deliver a set of ribs to Memphis from here in Nashville, but I'm going to say short distances within neighborhoods in routes that may be difficult to traverse by existing staff.
Mr. Chairman.
Follow up?
Yeah, there's a follow-up. First thing you get embarrassed bringing ribs to Memphis. Don't do it, brother. keep these little stinky rotten ribs up here. Don't bring your butt down there. Because if you do, we're going to deal with you, okay? But yeah, I was just figuring 5 miles, that may be too far. I don't know. 2 miles, whatever. I know what we're doing, trying to make sure that the commerce is not impeded there because that's the way of the future, you know. But if you find out something later, just kind of let me know. I was just curious. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Representative Vital, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Hawk, in looking at this bill, which in concept I support, I think it does allow for timely delivery for those who cannot get goods and services and count on this type of service. 2 questions. One is, we do talk about using bike paths, shoulders, right-hand edge of curb. Many of our roads outside our inner city do not have shoulders, barely. So do you see this mostly in the inner city of communities or subdivisions where you would have bike paths and sidewalks?
Chairman Hawk?
Yes.
And second, would the unit be stationed there at a location and then it would be stopped and then sent out? Is that how this works?
Chairman Hawk?
Thank you. There's a great video, although we don't allow videos or props in our House committee that the Senate showed the other day that showed the device itself. They will be stationed within a particular area to serve that particular area and will be dispatched from a central holding spot, for lack of a better word.
So the community would be familiar with it. Maybe the dogs in the neighborhood would be familiar with it and not be chasing it or barking at it constantly.
Chairman Hawk?
Chairman Vital, I can't say what a dog's going to do. Being an animal owner myself, I can't tell you what my animals are going to do at any given day, but that certainly is something to think about and could make for a great America Funniest Home Videos video in the future, I would think.
And my
Finally?
last question, Mr.
Yes.
Chairman, if possible, would be, since these vehicles can travel up to 20 miles an hour and are maneuvering among traffic and pedestrians, I would just like to look at making sure that the $100,000 insurance policy for general liability is sufficient protection for the public. And so maybe that's something we could talk about after.
Chairman Hawk?
And thank you very much. And that's certainly a concern. And I will say the bill authorizes operating speeds up to 20 miles per hour in an area other than sidewalks. These devices will operate at predictable speeds and are programmed to detect and respond to pedestrians, to individuals, as we mentioned, to animals and dogs who may be in presence as well. And hundreds of thousands of miles of real world testing on these devices. There have been no safety critical incidents that I'm aware of. So it's been, not that any plant is foolproof, but they've done a good job trying to detect all the problems that could potentially happen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No further questions on the list. I see one more hand. Chairman Russell?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a question for the sponsor. Are these vehicles going to be registered and titled under the electric vehicles through our clerk's office?
Chairman?
I'm going to say no. I don't think so. We're trying to find motor fuel taxes there, or not motor fuel, but we're trying to find tax revenue for a highway fund there. We may talk about that in years to come as we turn the couch up and to see how many nickels and dimes we can find. We may look into that. So,
I knew you was trying to fund TDOT. I was just making sure.
thank you.
Well, the list is growing again. Representative Chairman Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In Section 4, Part A, this gives an inanimate object a right, it literally says that these devices shall have all the rights and is subject to all of the duties under this chapter, chapter 10, parts 1 through 5 of this title, that are applicable to a pedestrian. I have a little concern about providing a right to a device. And the wording of that is a concern to me. Could you explain why that's worded that way, please?
Chairman?
And thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, Chairman Todd. That was our initial concern as well. Frankly, was giving rights to an inanimate object. The amendment takes care of that. Representative Renaud had asked some questions about that earlier, and we've removed that. Any language implying that a personal delivery device has rights has been removed. These devices are tools, not legal actors, and remain subject to regulation and enforcement.
Thank you for that. I read the amendment first, and then I just didn't have them side by side to know exactly what we're doing. So thank you for clarifying that very much.
Thank you.
Speaker Marsh, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Chairman Hawk, when one of these devices goes out, I suppose it would be like a pizza delivery. And would it be a delivery for one location, or would it have multiple stops?
Chairman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The capacity of these vehicles, if you can imagine a small domed vehicle that looks like a play school play car for kids, the capacity of these vehicles would be to hold up to 6 large pizzas. So you've got 6 large pizza stacks. There is the technology on these devices will be such that only the purchaser, well, let me back up a second. The deliverer, the product itself will come to the restaurant. I'll use restaurant as an example. There'll be an app that they are able to load it the way that it has to be loaded to go to whatever location. And then it can only be opened by the receiving individual. I'm going to look to the audience. I don't know if we can do one, although the capacity may be there. I think the thought is only to do one delivery per trip. So long answer to your question there, but one delivery per trip.
You know?
Well, that's what I was concerned about. If you had 2 on there, the second one might not make it to the second person. If it's a hungry person, they might get both pizzas.
Follow up?
And again, Chairman, I think those real world tests have proven that to probably be true, that human nature may have necessitated that only one customer per trip, one load per trip be done that way. So thank you. And again, forgive me for my delay in answering the question.
Follow up, Speaker? Representative Glenn?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Quick question. Is this been implemented already in any other state, or are we the first?
Chairman?
It has. Arizona has been doing this for a little over 6 months right now. They're kind of the model out there. And it's working very well. Similar legislation to this is being introduced in several other states and in cities across the country. So it's working well so far.
Follow up?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And what is like the date when this would take place here? Was there a projected date on when this will start?
Chairman?
Thank you. I'm going to look at the implementation date. I would think it's July 1 of 26. So it would take effect during our traditional fiscal year, when many other bills take effect July 1 of this year.
Follow up?
No, what I mean is when will we actually see some of these on the roads?
Chairman?
Thank you. After we pass the legislation, after it becomes in effect on July 1, soon after there, I would think. I don't have a direct time frame when there'll be a rollout from the organization that's proposing this, but I would venture to say you'll hear a big story about this, learning some of the information from Arizona. The Today Show did a 4-minute segment on these in Arizona recently, and I have a feeling that we would do something similar in Tennessee when this is rolled out by a particular company if they choose to.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Vice Chairman Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess I raised my hand after other people thought of the questions, and I'm going to make a comment to a couple of questions that have been raised. The first being that my toddler, my intern, is a student, University of Tennessee, and devices like this are already available in Knoxville on the campus, University of Tennessee, and work quite well. In fact, my intern, mine and my fellow representative here share an intern, stated that if it had not been for these little autonomous vehicles, she might have starved to death last year. And then my second comment about where are they also used in other places. My son lives in Palm Beach County, but has observed these autonomous moving vehicles in Miami. And he said it's not like they scurry around, but they're sort of moving at a moderate pace. They interact well with pedestrian traffic, and there seems to be quite a bit of usage of them. So I view this to be a business decision of someone trying to implement something that fills a gap of delivery less than a mile, which was also a previous question. And based on the information that I've got from people that have personal experience with it, I'm in support of the bill. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Vice Chairman Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move previous question.
Previous question has been called. I see one hand. There is an objection, and we'll take a voice vote on previous question. All in favor of previous question, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Previous question carries. We are now voting on the bill. Please open the voting gallery, please. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Mr. Chairman, you have 18 ayes and 2 noes.
Bill passes, and your bill goes to Calendar and Rules, Chairman. Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being patient with us. That concludes our calendar. We're going to now go out of session. We're out of session, and welcome our guests from the Tennessee Chamber of Commerce. We have Director Josh Brown with us. Director Brown, we would like for you to come forward, and if you have any other of your staff that would like to join you, that is fine as well. But I believe we're going to have members. I believe we're going to have some interesting conversation with Director Brown with the Tennessee Chamber of Commerce. Interest in infrastructure in Tennessee, which impacts this community, and we're glad to have their input on this. Director Brown, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Really appreciate your invitation to be here today. And thanks to members of the committee for indulging me for a few minutes. Just to set the context a little bit, we at the Chamber, I joined the Chamber a little over a year ago in this role as CEO. And one of the first things I heard from our members across the state, large companies, small companies, really any type of company, any industry you can imagine, was about infrastructure and the challenges that we're facing as a state: transportation, energy, water, wastewater. Anything you can think of that falls into the infrastructure category. There are concerns that Tennessee needs to do more to invest in those areas to keep up with the growth that we're having as a state, and to sort of keep us in a posture as a state from an economic perspective with the investment that we've been receiving from many companies throughout the country and throughout the world. So what we did is, as a follow-up to that is we had an infrastructure summit back in June. We had a couple hundred people attended that summit from across Tennessee. We had a number of stakeholders participate in various conversations and raise some of these policy challenges that we know we have and some of these infrastructure challenges. Coming out of that, we at the chamber set up for the first time an infrastructure advisory council, which is for us going to be a permanent ongoing council within the chamber that our members can participate in to have conversations about best practices, policy ideas, learn from each other, but it's also a way for us to engage with policymakers, whether that be elected officials, folks from the agencies, also with our federal delegations. We've been meeting monthly since then and plan on continuing to do that. We've had in-person meetings with Commissioner Reed at TDOT. We've had meetings with folks in the governor's office. We have a lot more planned this year to further those conversations. So what I want to do today is walk you through some thoughts that we have from a business perspective about why these investments in infrastructure matter so much. And really, from the business community's perspective, this conversation really comes down to a choice about Tennessee's future. As our state continues to grow, and we know that it will, we can either invest in infrastructure that supports that growth, or we can allow those costs to accumulate over time. When infrastructure doesn't keep pace, the impacts are real and measurable. Congestion becomes a daily reality, freight becomes less reliable, labor markets shrink, and the cost of doing business rises. Over time, that affects our competitiveness as a state and how Tennessee is viewed by employers who are looking to invest in our state. This isn't just about roads and bridges, it's about economic competitiveness, quality of life, and whether Tennessee continues to be a place where businesses want to locate. So what we want to talk about today is the cost of not investing, and more importantly, the possibilities that we can unlock when we do. So when we talk about transportation infrastructure, the business community doesn't see this as a standalone issue. Infrastructure is a major industry unto itself. We all know that. But we see it as something that touches every part of our economy, from where companies choose to locate, to whether workers can get to their jobs, to how reliably goods move throughout the state. For our members, site readiness, logistics, commuting are not abstract concepts. They shape real investment decisions. They're the real things that we deal with every day. If freight is unreliable or workers can't get to their jobs efficiently, companies look elsewhere. And even if everything else about Tennessee is attractive. The growth question, we're all grappling with it. I think we've seen the growth already. We know that. We know more growth is coming. We think it's a good thing for Tennessee. We think that it means that more people have gotten jobs. There's more businesses have prospered in our state. We think growth has been a good thing. It's something we should be proud of as a state. And I think it's a reflection of many, many years of smart policy decisions by governors, by the legislature. But growth also comes with responsibility. And the growth is coming either way. We know it's coming. So we either invest in it now or we pay for it later. I mean, we think that's as simple as we can put it. You can sustain the growth over time if you invest smartly and get ahead of it, or later on you have congestion, delays, higher costs. These are the choices I think we have that we're facing. And what are some of the other costs of not investing? Well, you look at the slower freight we talked about, higher logistics costs, and what that leads to is reduced competitiveness and issues around affordability. If you have congestion and unreliable commutes, you deal with labor shortages, you deal with higher cost of living. Longer timelines for site development leads to potentially projects that we miss. And we know how successful our Department of Economic and Community Development has been over the years in attracting these companies, attracting these new jobs. Do we put that at risk? So really, it's a reputational question for Tennessee, in addition to those other things. If Tennessee is seen as a place that can't keep up with its own success, that's going to affect site selection. It's going to affect expansion decisions, investments that existing businesses make in their businesses to grow and add jobs. And ultimately, that leads to a lack of long-term confidence. When you look at our competitors, and I define competitors in this example as other states, they're not standing still. And these are a few examples that we pulled out of other states and some of the metrics that they've put out into the public domain to measure what their investments result in. Georgia, as an example, every dollar invested in their freight network returns $2.20. South Carolina, $30.5 billion in transportation spending generates $51 billion in economic output. I won't read all those to you, but the point is these other states are making some record investments. They're being more aggressive. And we think, and we've heard stories of this, that the capital follows the readiness. So if the states are prepared, the capital will flow there. We don't need to slow down because we know our neighbors are not going to slow down. And just another tidbit of information I think is interesting. Transportation as a percentage of states' overall budgets, just to cite the numbers from these states here. Georgia, 7% of their state budget is transportation. North Carolina, 9%. South Carolina, 6.5%. Florida, 13%. Tennessee is somewhere between 4 and 5%, depending on how you measure the numbers. Our geography has always been a huge advantage, right? One of our greatest advantages. Central location, it's why a lot of industries come here in the first place. This statistic that nearly 70% of Americans live within 600 miles of Nashville, that translates directly into opportunity. But proximity alone isn't enough. Businesses depend on reliable highways, bridges, and freight corridors to turn geography into real economic value. We're home to multiple interstate corridors connecting the Midwest, the South, the East Coast. Our rivers, our rail, our interstate gateways feed national supply chains. We have a pipeline of planned mega sites, industrial parks, logistics hubs. Our strong credit rating as a state and low debt means that we have more capacity to invest. Our businesses have more capacity to invest. But those advantages that I just listed only work if we continue to invest in the infrastructure that supports all of that. A couple of slides here that really get to the impact that infrastructure as an industry has on jobs in Tennessee and on the economy of Tennessee. You look at some of these data, it's not just concrete and steel, it's upward mobility. You look at 10% higher annual income for folks who work in infrastructure-related jobs, 30% higher wages at the lower income levels. In many cases, a 4-year degree is not required for a lot of these jobs. And we've seen the trends towards technical schools, CTE, community colleges. You know, it aligns very nicely with some of this. But median wages are above the U.S. median in infrastructure-related jobs. Furthermore, when you look at the actual job numbers, there's about 7,000 plus jobs that are tied to building and improving transportation infrastructure in our state. 94,000 that support system operations and freight transportation related infrastructure. These 15,000 businesses and agencies in Tennessee that are in that infrastructure space earn over $5 billion a year in wages. And then in the aggregate number, nearly 330,000 jobs throughout the economy in the infrastructure area. And this is logistics, it's manufacturing services, small businesses, all throughout Tennessee. So hundreds of thousands of jobs are impacted. So what is this investment that we've been doing so far, and what will the investment in the future yield for us? I said before, I want to applaud the governor and this legislature for the funds that you have put into transportation infrastructure in the last several budget cycles. It's very significant and it's very meaningful. And the Transportation Modernization Act, as you know, $3 billion in state funds that's going to leverage multiples of that at the federal level. The studies will show that $1 billion in transportation investment will support tens of thousands of jobs and billions in wages. It boosts business productivity, property values, and the tax base go up. There's safety and reliability that comes from that. Every dollar we put to work in the right projects returns multiples to the economy. I'll mention that things like choice lanes, public-private partnerships that the state has entered into, very significant and very important. We can leverage private dollars to support some of these efforts, that carries us even further. But as I said earlier, one of the reasons for being here today is just to sort of make the point that there's a cost to inaction. There's a cost to not investing. And the business community isn't really asking the question of whether the investment is needed or not. We know it is. The real question is how to structure it responsibly in a way that protects our competitiveness as a state and also has fiscal discipline. So really three things we want to leave with you. First of all, let's give Tennessee the tools to compete and win for the next generation. Existing tools that you have, fuel tax, registration fees, the federal formula, discretionary funds, the Modernization Act revenue, those are all good things, but demands are outpacing those resources and those sources of funding. We know that, especially as vehicles get more efficient. So more tools in the toolkit. Number two, we need a modern flexible toolkit to match what other states are already doing. We've seen the heavy investments being made by our neighbors, the results that they're producing. So how do we keep up? We've got an excellent credit rating, we've got low debt. It means we have a capacity to invest, and we should explore that. Finally, we ask you just to view these decisions through the lens of an investment, not an expenditure. We can invest strategically today, or we can pay for it later. So we stand ready at the Chamber and in the broader business community across Tennessee to be a part of this conversation, to help lead the conversation. Our role is to convene and help navigate some of these hard choices and work towards solutions that keep Tennessee growing and competitive for the long term. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Director Brown, and I appreciate the clarity that you've brought to this issue from the standpoint of industry and business in the state of Tennessee and explained why your members view this as extremely important to all of us. We do have some questions and comments, I assume, from our members. First of all, Representative McCalman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Brown, for being here. I think it goes without saying that, in my district alone, infrastructure has been, since I've been in the seat, a top 3 item, and I would wager that it's probably a top 3 item with everybody in this room. Just want to thank you for shining a light on the importance of investment. The growth is going to happen whether we like it or not. We need to be ready for it, and it's important. So thank you.
Would you like to comment on that?
Just to say that I think you're right when you say that it's the top 3 issue. We've done polling ourselves at the Chamber statewide that reflects that same information.
Vice Chairman Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate you putting the statistics up from some of our other states with the dollars that they invest. I sent a letter to the governor when they were preparing the budget this past fall to invest $10 billion into infrastructure this year. And I know that's a big ask. But my concern is exactly what you reiterated. We have $38 billion in a backlog of work right now. And while we've invested $2-3 billion, and that's good, but we're not really eating down the apple, so to speak, because the costs continue to go up. We're not getting ahead. And so I'm very concerned that if we don't make some significant investments into our state infrastructure, that we're never going to get caught up. Probably closer to home, some of our local road departments are facing even bigger challenges with bridges and some of the resurfacing in our counties. My home county of Overton County is on an 80-year cycle to resurface the roads. That's unacceptable. We can't maintain a road long enough to keep it together to get it back around to resurface it. So we not only have to do something about our state infrastructure, we've got a local infrastructure challenge as well. Bridge replacement costs and so forth have gone up, as we all know. And so that's becoming a bigger and bigger problem for our local communities, especially our smaller counties, to be able to have the resources to just replace bridges on the proper schedule. So I appreciate you advocating for that, and I'd encourage you to continue to do so. And I appreciate your statistics and data. That's very important. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman Hawk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Don't know if I mentioned this before, but I got a bill.
Me too.
We have bills that will do this. We just voted unanimous in favor of that. So, Mr. Brown, thank you very much for your attendance today and your presentation. Thank you for reiterating what House Bill 1683 will do for the state of Tennessee. And again, we've had really, really good conversations, and want to recognize the great folks at TDOT who have been doing a lot with the revenues that we've been sending them. And these latest investments with the Transportation Modernization Act, with budget document we're in, those $4 billion additional dollars have been great. I think what we're hearing from you is support of the legislation we talked about 30 minutes ago, that just make this recurring, give us a steady stream of revenue, and keep the good times rolling is what I heard from you. So thank you very much. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Representative Bain.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I wanted to talk about our infrastructure crisis, and we need to start with talking about fiscal honesty. As you know, we have a large and growing infrastructure backlog: roads, bridges, water, sewer systems, and it requires long-term planning, stable revenue, and a shared responsibility. And I keep hearing in the legislature that there's not enough money, without acknowledging that our tax system has been intentionally restructured over the last 15 years to reduce and destabilize, even as our infrastructure needs have grown. And with all due respect, Mr. Brown, the Tennessee Chamber of Commerce has been a key player and central advocate for many of those tax changes, lobbying for policies that have allowed the largest and most profitable corporations operating in Tennessee to dramatically reduce, and if not eliminate, in entirety their state tax liability. Senator Oliver and I we solicited the Department of Revenue asking for data, and based on the Department of Revenue data, 24% of the most profitable companies in the country that reported over $1 billion of federal taxable income reported zero in our state liability tax, in the state excise tax. So my question for you is, understanding that we have infrastructure needs that have to be addressed, that our tax code is rigged against small businesses, placing those taxes on a working mom buying baby formula at Kroger over Amazon and FedEx and companies that heavily rely on our infrastructure. Do you think that the most profitable companies operating in Tennessee should play a larger role in funding our infrastructure systems that they rely so heavily on?
Correct.
Well, we support any of the bills that we've supported in the past regarding our tax structure. We stand by that. We're proud of the companies that operate in Tennessee and the jobs they create and the amount of money they generate into our economy. We know how many times those dollars turn over and support families and infrastructure and other things. Our point in being here today is to say that there are other funding sources out there that we think should be explored. We're not here to say that we think our tax system is unfair. We think that, and certainly isn't rigged, to use your word, but we're proud of the Tennessee businesses. We're proud to represent Tennessee businesses, and we're proud to advocate on their behalf. But this is a larger question than the tax code. This is a much bigger question of sources of funding, creativity, more tools in the toolkit. We've seen examples in other states of how they've tackled some of these issues. You know, we think Tennessee should look at those other examples and at least explore those opportunities.
Follow up?
Just one. Lauding creativity. I have three creative examples for this committee as to how to restore our revenues. One is that we can make corporations pay for the roads that they wear out. We could charge commercial trucks based on the miles driven and vehicle weight, or at a minimum, ensure that a real corporate minimum tax, so companies can't lobby their way out of paying for the infrastructure they depend on. We could tax extreme wealth. Not commuters, which is what Massachusetts did, the fair share tax. They restored all of their bridges based on taxing a certain threshold of income. Or perhaps my favorite, pot for potholes. We could legalize the recreational sale of marijuana and reroute that money to the general highway fund. So those are three creative options that I've given this committee, and I look forward to engaging in thoughtful discussion about them. Thank you.
Representative Towns.
Chairman, I'm glad you saw me this time. Mr. Brown, thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you.
You know, obviously, we are at a deciding point whether we're going to go forth and maintain the growth or not. And certainly, the creative stuff that my colleagues just talked about, because it costs so much today to do infrastructure. It costs a ton of money. I think everybody should participate in the pain because everybody's going to benefit from us reducing the pain. That means corporations, that means all of us as citizens, everybody has to take the hit. Now, what I'm hearing you say are a number of things that I think a little different than my colleagues are sharing. We're going to grow or maybe not grow if we don't do the infrastructure, is what I hear you saying. You're looking at your graphic showed 8 million people in 14, 16 years. That's a lot of people, man. Okay? The infrastructure we got right now is way too small for that kind of traffic. I knew it was supposed to be about 4 or 5 million in just a few years, but 8 million people, you got all kinds of problems. Housing and jobs and where people are going to, recreate and all this kind of stuff. That's real stuff that has to be dealt with. And we cannot afford to be caught blind or unawares. So, and we need some money so we can aggressively deal with this stuff. Because one thing and you said it, and I've said in this committee a number of times, it may have fallen on deaf ears, that you do it today while it's cheaper, or you're going to do it tomorrow and it's going to cost you 3 times as much. That's a given. It's going to cost more money. Now, but we need to figure out how to get an infusion of as maybe my grandmother would say, a whole heap of money at one time to deal with these things while they're charged. Our debt rate, our borrowing money rate being down is obviously a prime time to take advantage of. But we have to make a decision as a state of leaders that we're going to bite it. We're going to go on and get it done. Piecemeal is still going to cost us a lot of money. 1 billion, 2 billion, 3 billion. That's not going to start the problem. That's not going to start to resolve it. We got to have hundreds of billions of dollars to deal with it. There's no way around it unless you see something I don't see. My math tells me we need that kind of money in order to really go at these problems. So while I appreciate what you're sharing, I think you got to really put the heaviness, the gravity down of where we are and what we need to do. $1 billion, chicken change. $5 billion, chicken change. Because infrastructure just costs so much money. And we got to get prepared for these jobs, housing, roads being expanded. We got to get prepared today, yesterday. So I'd love to hear your comments on that.
I think someone mentioned, I appreciate your comments. Someone mentioned $38 billion in backlog, and I think that's accurate. It might be higher, but that's a static number. That's based on a snapshot in time of today. If you just look at the projects that are needed today, and that doesn't speak to, as you said, what we're going to see in 10, 15 years when our population's at 8 million. So the number's only going up. I will say that the Department of Transportation, with the backing of this legislature, has done some things through the TMA to accelerate some of these projects. I know there's a massive interstate project that's being worked on in Memphis that is an example of that, where they've been able to get creative through leveraging state and federal dollars and accelerate the timeline, pulling in some private money potentially as well. There are examples of that we can point to. But all of the above, I mean, I think that's the message we're sending is we think the state should look at all of these options. You mentioned the debt rate. It's a very low debt rate and a very, very, very good credit rating that we have as a state. How can we leverage that? It's not historically something we as a state have done. We're only one of 5 states in the country that does not use debt to fund transportation.
Pay as you go.
I'm not suggesting, it's not for me to say what the policy solution should be. That's for you all. But our encouragement as a business community is to say that we've got businesses out there making investments, businesses out there taking risks, hiring people, doing capital expansions. They're putting their dollars to work in our state. We have to find ways to keep up with that.
Follow up?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Brown, for that. I think that obviously we do policy, but sometimes we can miss it. So always a good suggestion. I think it's always good and timely. What I would like to see is at some point, just a comprehensive way laid out, black and white, where we all know, certainly your input has to be, your team's input has to be to the members, and we know exactly what it is we have to do in order to get there. Because we're not going to be able to be competitive if we don't. We're not going to be. They're going to go somewhere else, as you indicated. And we don't want to lose that growth that we have across the state. We're doing good, but the growing pains, we got to meet the challenges of the growing pains today. So while I appreciate your presentation, it's like for us to see a paper or something of that nature, and then let us know just how dire it is, because it's going to be really bad if we don't do it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Just a reminder too, the TASSA study, the bill that was carried by our committee member, Representative Vital, I believe that study is due in the next very few days, which probably will give us a really good roadmap to where we need to proceed if we have the political courage. Just throwing that out there. Representative Glenn, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Brown, for being here. I have just a couple of questions. Have you actually seen any industries or business turn and go somewhere else because of our infrastructure?
I don't have any specific examples of that I could cite.
So no one, but it has happened, I guess.
I'm told that it has, and I'm told that is becoming increasingly a consideration that companies are making when they look at the list of things they're looking to consider when they make an investment, either an existing business to grow here or a new company to come here. It's always been one of the considerations they make or that they take into consideration. I'm hearing that more and more that's becoming a question they're asking. But I don't have a specific example of a company that's made a decision not to come for that reason.
Okay.
Follow up?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I know you're giving us the kind of the overall, but when do you see this as like the real crisis? Like at this point, we are done. Like our infrastructure has caused us to lose out on certain industries. When do you see that? Is it 5 years, 10 years from now?
You could make an argument that we're there now in this sense. We know that companies, when they're looking to make site decisions or relocations or expansions, they're looking at those decisions months and years out. They're not deciding having a conversation and then tomorrow they make the decision. This is something they plan for, well in advance. So if you assume that that's true and know that's true, then they're having these conversations internally right now. If we expand, where do we expand? How do we expand? How much do we spend? They're having those conversations right now. And if they then announce that decision 2 years from now or 3 years from now, presumably, if we're not any further along in dealing with this problem, then we just made the problem worse, right? So you can make the argument that we're at that point right now where the decisions have to be made. Now, as I said, I want to reiterate this, some of the tools that the state has been able to leverage in the last few years because of the TMA and other things that this legislature has done, it's allowed TDOT to do a lot better in terms of planning and funding some of these projects from start to finish, accelerating the timeline on some of these projects. I would say from all indication from our members, they're seeing significant improvement in that area. So I will say that I think maybe that shows that if the tools are there, that the TDOT can actually act on that and can actually do what's necessary. But there's a limitation to that at some point, right? So I think that's the point we're trying to make.
Follow up?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is more of a statement than a question at this point. I actually agree with you in the crisis census. Just in Montgomery County alone, we are expanding Hancock by 2,100 additional employees. And we have 2 roads. 2. And one of them, and we have folks who will not be able to come off of 24 and go right into that plant. And so we are facing a crisis in Montgomery County because of that. state roads that are not sufficient enough to handle that. Now, it didn't stop them from continuing with the phase 2 development, but we are going to pay the price for not having the infrastructure to support that. So I think you're absolutely correct that we are already at that crisis. Thank you so much.
Chairman Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted, I guess, make a statement in support of what you have brought to us today. And I guess more clarification over some comments that have been made previously around taxing businesses. I think anybody in this room that has run a business, small or large, knows one fact that cannot be disputed. And that is businesses don't pay taxes. People pay taxes. Every single business in this state, in this country, that is taxed or put a fee on or any other cost gets passed on to the end user, usually with a profit margin attached to it. And you drive away those businesses for having to go through that hassle. That is a bare fact. And I would appreciate just getting that on the record, that again, reiterating, once again, I've probably made that statement more times in the General Assembly than I have most anything else, that businesses don't pay taxes, people pay taxes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chairman. And we want to be respectful of the director's time. I know you have a hard stop, but I do appreciate you coming and sharing with us today. I appreciate your leadership. You and I chatted, I believe, in the last session, and then by July, you'd put together this infrastructure summit. I think was well attended, about 800 registrations there. And I think was a step in the right direction, and I guess unprecedented for the chamber, Tennessee Chamber, to do something like this with regard to this issue. So I deeply appreciate what you've done, and I'm so glad to hear that the Infrastructure Council will continue to be a standing council. And again, I just appreciate your leadership on this issue, and thank you for coming today and sharing with us. Any other comments or questions from the committee? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion. We are adjourned.